Before the screams, before the swirling red horror, there was Giegue. He wasn't a monster, at least, not at first. He was raised by humans, loved like a child, and when it came time to lead his alien race, something inside him shattered. This is the tragic story of a villain who never wanted to become one. And if you think Giygas is terrifying, wait until you understand the pain that came before him. Stick around till the end. If you love hidden stories like this, you're gonna want to hit subscribe right here on ContraBrosTeam. We go deep into the legends no one else dares to tell. Before the red static, before the distortion, before the name Giygas was whispered like a curse in EarthBound, he was just Giegue. And his story didn't begin in war or conquest, but in love, in confusion, in something that almost felt like home. It starts in the early 1900s. Two humans vanish, George and Maria, a married couple. No trace, no explanation, no ransom, just gone. But they hadn't been killed. They hadn't even been kidnapped in the traditional sense. They had been taken off this earth by a race far beyond human understanding. Now here's where things get strange and tragic. Instead of dissecting them, these aliens gave Maria a job, raise something, a child, an alien infant, fragile and strange, yet somehow dependent. She named him Giegue. Imagine that, a human woman, maybe once a school teacher or nurse, now singing lullabies to a glowing, floating creature with eyes that never blink. And somehow, he responded, he learned, he grew, not just in body, but in feeling. Maria didn't just care for Giegue, she loved him, and in return, he loved her back. This wasn't an experiment anymore, it was a bond. But what about George? He was no fool. He saw the technology, the knowledge of this alien race, and he took notes, secret notes. And one day he escaped. He fled back to Earth, taking their secrets with him. And Giegue, he was left behind, with Maria, with the silence that betrayal brings. This moment, the moment George escapes, marks the beginning of Giegue's fall, because the alien race, furious over the theft, began preparing for war. And Giegue, now torn between two families, would one day have to choose a side. But that's what makes this so heartbreaking, because Giegue's origin isn't about destruction or domination. It's about being raised with love and then watching it slip away. He wasn't born a villain. He was raised as a son. And when we meet him again, decades later, in Mother, he's not fighting for hate. He's fighting because the only family he ever had betrayed the other one. That's the tragedy most people miss. Before Giygas became the embodiment of horror, Giegue was a child caught in the middle of a war he never asked for. And deep down, maybe he never truly recovered from it. So now picture this. Giegue is older, smarter. He's no longer just the strange child Maria once cradled in her arms. He's a symbol, a potential leader for an entire alien race. But inside, he's still that same being, carrying a lullaby he can't forget. The alien species that raised him expects loyalty. George's betrayal wasn't just personal, it was an act of war. Humanity must pay, Earth must suffer, and they want Giegue to lead the charge. But how do you attack the home of the woman who raised you? How do you destroy the very world that gave you your first feelings of love, warmth, maybe even a sense of self? This isn't a villain's journey. It's a slow collapse. Giegue is torn in two, between the duty assigned by his people and the love given by a human mother. And as that conflict grows, so does the fracture in his mind. Giegue stands on the edge of two worlds, duty pulling him one way, love pulling the other. The expectations of his alien race clash violently with the warmth he once felt from a human mother. His species demands action, justice, revenge. To them, Giegue hesitating is weakness, maybe even betrayal. So he does what they ask. He invades. But this isn't the invasion of a warmonger. It's the reluctant step of someone who's desperately trying not to feel. Because if he lets himself remember Maria, he might not be able to carry out the mission. And maybe that's the scariest thing about Giegue. Not his power, but how much he's trying to bury his own heart. It's here that Giegue becomes something more than just an alien antagonist. He becomes a metaphor for trauma, for split identity, for the unbearable weight of choosing between love and legacy. What happens when the person you love becomes the very thing you're told to destroy? What happens when loyalty to your blood conflicts with loyalty to your soul? Giegue is both invader and victim. And as the invasion unfolds, it's not a celebration of power. It's a cry for help, a desperate attempt to follow orders while smothering the only warmth he's ever known. But smothering love doesn't erase it, and when we meet him at the end of Mother, we see a being who hasn't made peace with anything. We see someone who's still broken. After all the conflict, the inner war, the silence, we finally meet him, not in some grand throne room, not in a dramatic cutscene, but in darkness, a void, just Giegue, and the sound of his mind breaking apart. This is the final battle in Mother, but it doesn't feel like a battle at all. You can't hit him, not really. Every attack passes through his shifting form. He's there, but not. A phantom of thought, a being that's trying not to be touched. And then you realize, weapons are useless here. The only thing that reaches him is love. Specifically, a lullaby. Maria's lullaby, the one she sang to him when he was just a child. If you can even call him that. That melody, simple and soft, slices through the void in a way no blade can. And he reacts, not with anger, not with power, but with pain. You hear it in the distortion of his voice, the way his dialogue crumbles. He speaks like someone who's remembering something he's tried to forget for too long. This isn't good versus evil. This is a breakdown. You're not defeating a monster. You're witnessing someone fall apart under the weight of memories he can't carry anymore. And as you pray again and again, the lullaby becomes stronger, brighter, until finally, he can't take it anymore. He doesn't die. He leaves. Because that's the tragedy of Giegue. He isn't destroyed. He's undone by the one thing he tried to forget, the one thing that could still reach him. But fleeing didn't bring Giegue peace. It only delayed the collapse. He escaped the lullaby, but not the feeling behind it. The love he denied, the identity he buried. Those things didn't disappear. They festered, and in the silence that followed, something darker began to grow. Not a villain with purpose, but a void that couldn't forget. When Giegue fled, it wasn't a victory. It was a delay, a pause. He didn't die. He simply vanished. But inside, something was unraveling. Because love, when denied, doesn't disappear. It buries itself. It turns sour. And in Giegue's case, it evolved into something else entirely. In EarthBound, he returns, but not as Giegue, as something else, something that can't take shape, or form words, or remember what it even is. He's now Giygas, a being of pure anguish. He doesn't talk. He doesn't reason. He only feels, and all he feels is pain. Players remember Giygas for how terrifying he is. The horror, the whispers, the chaos. But the truth is, Giygas isn't terrifying because he's evil. He's terrifying because he used to be someone. He is grief weaponized, a mind so overwhelmed by pain and memory, it collapses into something unrecognizable, something broken beyond language. You're not just fighting a villain in EarthBound. You're confronting trauma that was never allowed to heal. You're facing a creature born from love that was too strong to be accepted and too painful to carry forward. And maybe in those final moments, as your party prays, what reaches Giygas isn't power. It's the one thing he lost the moment Maria was taken from him: peace. Because Giygas isn't the end of a villain's story. He's the afterimage of someone who was never allowed to be whole. Giegue's transformation into Giygas isn't just science fiction, it's a warning. When love is weaponized, when grief festers without healing, even the most innocent can become unrecognizable. Giygas isn't a monster from another world. He's what happens when a heart breaks and no one is left to pick up the pieces. Giegue's story might be over, but there are so many others like his, forgotten, buried, or misunderstood. If you felt something watching this, if you love stories that go beyond the surface, then join us here at ContraBrosTeam. We uncover the truths hiding behind pixels and nostalgia. And if you want even more lost legends and obscure classics, make sure to visit our sister channel, Retrolist HQ, because sometimes the games we forget hold the stories we need most.